In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Okay, let's see. I don't know if I can figure out how to make that higher. How you guys doing? I'm gonna say that again, sorry. Post-camp voice. How you guys doing? Good? Okay, I'm gonna have you guys, if you're in the last couple rows, come up here. I want you to sit right up in these 2 rows. We've got the second row completely empty. Leaders lead from the front, am I right? Come on. All right, so tonight, it's called Let's Talk, but the title of my message is actually gonna be Summer Season Gains. How many of you guys are in sports and it's all about gains? Muscle, quickest times, whatever else, being the fastest. So now that school's out, I want to just talk about, now that we don't have the distractions of class, some of you are still in summer school, so once that's over, you'll be out of school for good for the summer. We don't have the same schedules that we normally do. We've kind of most of you have probably kind of settled into a little bit of a summer routine, yes? Yes. Some. So tonight I just want to do a really quick message with you guys, kind of just talking about just 3 easy steps that we can take in making some gains this summer season. So the first of it being to come up with a game plan. In Habakkuk 2:2, it says, write what you see, write it out in big block letters so it can be read on the run. So in other words, you may have heard the version that says, write the vision, make it plain so he who reads it can run with it. Basically, have you ever tried to build something that did not come with an instruction manual? Anybody? Try to put together something, anything, play a new game, and you're like, I don't care to read how to play. I just want to skip to the play part and I'll figure it out. I'm a little bit like that. Thanks, Mike. Everybody give it up for Mike. Yeah, Mike. I'm the type of person, when it comes to building things, I read the instruction manual, but when it comes to learning new games and stuff, I'm kind of I would just rather can you open that? I would just rather useless up here. I would just rather sometimes figure it out for myself. Thank you. And then find my own way to do it. But most of the time, if I'm building something that I know it's going to frustrate me, I use the instruction manual. So basically this verse, what it's talking about is just to write the vision, make it plain so that a person can literally read it and go do exactly what it says. And so for us this summer, I want to just give you this idea, this practice that you could put into play of basically writing out the vision for your life. For your summer, it doesn't have to be for your life, but at least for this summer, write out the vision. What do you want summer 2019 to look like? This season, maybe you're coming into high school for the first time. Maybe you're coming into junior high for the first time. Maybe it's your last summer before you actually graduate. Or maybe you're I'm in the middle of high school. It's same old. But I want you guys to, there's such an importance in writing the vision, making it plain, being specific with what you want to see differently. And sometimes there's just the natural practice that statistics say that you're 42% more likely to achieve the goals that you actually write down. And the people who write goals down, they're more likely to achieve them than people who don't. And so this summer, I want to challenge you guys to write down what you see this summer looking like. Maybe you need to start developing a new habit of spending time in the Word, or spending time in prayer, or spending time in worship, or all 3. Maybe there's books that you want to read or need to read, or things. And I'm not talking school stuff. I'm not talking write the vision I'm going to go to the beach once a month, or I'm going to go to the beach every week. Not talking about those kinds of things. When it comes to your relationship with the Lord, and because obviously you guys are here and it's summer and you're at church, which obviously means either you are invited by somebody who's passionate about Jesus, or you're someone who is passionate about Jesus yourself. And so what is it that we can do with our lives to write the vision for our lives for this summer and say, hey, these are some of the things that, I want to change, or Lord, I feel like you're leading me to do in order to grow and make some gains this season. So, really quick, do you guys have some sort of, does everyone at least have either a phone or a notebook and a pen or have a neighbor with a notebook and pen or something like that? Is there anybody without a phone or paper and a pen? Okay, can we maybe get something or somebody with some paper want to share with our friend up here? Or like, lend a phone. But does everyone have at least something to jot down? I want to give you guys a couple minutes. Chops, if you want to throw on just a background worship song, it can be the same one or whatever. I want to give you guys a couple minutes to prayerfully consider. This isn't a time to talk with each other or figure it out, and has nothing to do with your friends. It's just between you and the Lord. What are the things that you want to put into practice this year, or this summer? Or what is it that you feel like maybe the Lord's been tugging on you to do, or maybe you're just like, oh, I need to make some changes, like maybe I need to wake up at 9 instead of like noon, or maybe I need to go to bed at 10, 11 instead of, like 3 in the morning. So just go ahead, and I want to give you guys a couple minutes. Chops is going to maybe lift up the house lights. Can you guys see, or are you good? Can you see what you're writing or typing? Okay, never mind, they're good. So just go ahead and play some music, and I want you guys to take just a few minutes to jot down and prayerfully consider, Lord, what is it that you would have me do differently this summer? And write it out, be specific. If you feel like he's like, I want you to spend 5 minutes a day in prayer, 5 minutes a day in worship, 5 minutes a day journaling, or whatever it is, you write it down. It's just between you and the Lord. And so go ahead and take some time. Just a reminder, this is time between you and the Lord. If you have a question, you can quietly ask a leader, but otherwise, be respectful of everyone around, respect yourself in your time with the Lord, and keep this between the two of you. Go ahead and just kind of maybe finish the sentence that you're working on, or that goal, whatever it is. And this is just a great practice too. If you're at home and you want to continue this, please feel free to continue it, because it's just something you want to be doing throughout the summer. Like, what can I do to get better? What maybe distractions do I need to put aside, or what new things in my life do I need to implement? So it's just a good practice, not only for the summer, but just for your life in general. So point number 1 was to come up with a game plan. And so writing the vision for your summer. The second one is to cultivate deep and healthy friendships. This one's a big one because I think we're all relational people. I don't think there's many people who genuinely don't like people. I mean, there's even people who maybe you don't really like people, but you probably like at least one person. You probably have at least one friend that gets you or understands you. So this one's huge. So to cultivate deep and healthy friendships, in order to have those summer season gains, in Proverbs 27:17, it says, "You use steel to sharpen steel, and one friend sharpens another." As iron sharpens iron, so does one friend to another. If you have friendships in your life, they're going to sharpen you one way or another. They're either going to create something that you don't like the appearance of, or whatever, or they're going to create something that is strong and to the point and all that. So to have healthy, strong relationships is key. You've probably heard the phrases, show me your friends and I'll show you your future, or you're the sum total of the 5 people closest to you or that you spend the most time with. So friendships are a big deal. They're the people that can either pull you up, encourage you, give you life, motivate you, or they're the people who can distract you, pull you away, have you unlearn the things that you know or relearn things that you either knew from the past or whatever. So this summer, I just want to encourage you guys for this to be a time that you build healthy and strong relationships, and that comes through connection, it comes through community. I know for me growing up, when it came to probably my sophomore year, I think that was one of the biggest turning points. Really, end of freshman year, it was really end of freshman year going into my sophomore year. I went to summer camp, and that was kind of for me one of the moments that was really pivotal for me in my faith. And so it became the year that I really grasped things. I made it my own. And so some of you are that age. It can happen way before that also. But it's that moment in your relationship with Jesus where you decide, you know what? I'm not going to go off what mom and dad have taught me, whether they've encouraged me to be in church or I'm riding on the coattails of their faith. You can hit, when you're growing up, you hit an age where you have to decide for yourself, is this what I want? And is this what I'm going to do? And so around there was when I really stepped into my relationship with the Lord and kind of made it my own. I feel like I still had maybe some lingering, friendships that held weight for me within my sophomore year. But really by the end of my sophomore year, going into my junior year, I was so plugged into the church and into my youth group and went to all the things, camps and next levels and different things like that, to where that became the source of my friendships and my relationships. And so that was where I grew the most. That's who I grew the most with. And, people from church, because we were pursuing the same thing, it's just we just got each other and we understood each other. And so I want to encourage you guys that this season of summer, let it be a time that you invest in the friendships that help you grow. And I'm not just saying only the ones from church, because you could have a friend at school or something like that, or on your sports teams or whatever, that believe the same things as you do, just don't happen to go here at that time. But the friendships that uplift you and they encourage you and they challenge you to be better and they leave you better than where they started with you, those are the friendships you want to pursue. So, hang out with them, do things with your small group outside of youth. We're going to be doing some small groups. Our leaders are all going to be doing some small groups, small groups, focus groups, whatever you want to call them, but they're going to be outside of Sunday nights. And so we'll announce one that's going on tonight, and then we have, I know, a few others kind of in the works. But so these are really good ones that they may be outside of your small groups, so it's not the ones that you meet with on Sunday nights, but it's different groups that you can sign up for. They're maybe focused on different topics or curriculum. Plug into those and build just your community. God doesn't want you to do life alone. The enemy knows that if he can isolate you and get you alone, that's where you can be the weakest. I don't know about you guys, but I was watching, do you guys ever watch nature things on Netflix or nature channels? I don't watch TV, I watch Netflix or whatever, but So recently we came across this, like, I guess it's like a documentary, but it's a 4-episode documentary on Netflix because it goes through the different seasons. And I'm pretty sure it's like up in Antarctica or whatever. But so we were watching it the other day. My kids are fascinated by it. And so, but it's a little like, oh gosh, like they just ripped apart an animal, and my kids are like looking at polar bears with bloody mouths and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, circle of life, right? So we were watching this one, and it was just fascinating because it's like these wolves are in Antarctica or whatever, and all of a sudden there's like these big old bison. I didn't realize they were up there, but apparently they are. So they're like running, they're staying in a pack, and I don't know about you, but like when it comes to nature, there's like these pack mentalities, you know? And it's like, man, sometimes I'm like, that is really preaching Bible. So these bison and buffalo, they're all like running together, and then there's like this pack of wolves that are like, we're coming. And so they're like, you know, using like size versus like speed and agility. And so it's like this kind of like battle of like, almost like the brains versus brawn, and it's just fascinating. So these buffalo are like running around, and they're like kind of charging at these wolves, and they're like scurrying, and so you're like, oh man, they're really fighting these things off. Like, you know, what you'd think the underdog being the buffalo, you're like, oh, they're gonna win. And so all of a sudden then they realize, either they're like getting tired, or I don't know what was happening, but they're realizing like, we don't have what it takes to like fight this pack of wolves off. And so what they do is they start taking off. And they're trying, like, they're just trying to escape. But there's all these wolves, like, following and nipping at them and all this stuff. And all of a sudden, there's, like, one that gets caught somehow. And I don't know, I guess I didn't realize that wolves could really take these massive things down. But they did. It caught this little baby, and it was just down for the count. It was really sad. And my kids are like, oh, my gosh. And I'm like, but it's, like, fascinating at the same time. But anyway, I say all that to say there's something about a group. There's something about strength in numbers. I know my parents, every time I'd go to the bathroom, you know, they'd always be like, safety in numbers. And like, so guys, if you ever wonder why girls go to the bathroom with a buddy system, that's probably why. Not that, anyway, there's just like, anytime you go away from your parents, there's safety in numbers, and they don't care if it's to the bathroom or wherever. But so anyway, I just think of that analogy and how there's just such strength in numbers, and I think the devil knows that, you know, and so there's times where, especially in the summer, you can feel isolated because either you're between friend groups or you aren't used to you aren't hanging out with the friends that you're normally hanging out with in school, and so there's just kind of that odd gap that happens, and so you get bored and you get lonely, and like it just is never a recipe for good. And it's not a recipe for growth. It's just, it ends up feeding isolation and being all alone. So want to encourage you guys to get into solid community with people of like mind and beliefs that you have, and who love the Lord and who are going to call you guys up and challenge you guys to grow and be better. The third and final thing to ensure that you can make some gains this summer would be to not miss church, and not just church in general, but also like anything that we have to offer. Anytime that there is a gathering of the body of Christ, whether it is truly like your small group going to ampersand, or youth weekly on Sunday nights, or church in the mornings at the morning gatherings, or like our events coming up. We've got pool parties and all kinds of stuff. So whatever that is, don't miss it. In Hebrews 10, 24 and 25, I think it's actually 23 through 25. It says, let us hold fast the confession of our hope without wavering, for he who promised is faithful. And let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good works, not neglecting to meet together, as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near. So the day really just meaning the day that Jesus comes and, collects his church and all that. But basically saying, don't neglect that time of gathering together. Don't neglect that time of community and coming together as a body. We just came from camp, and a really big theme of camp was just the local church. And what I love about that, like the camp that we were just at, what I love about the message throughout the week was it was just empowering and encouraging the body, of the church body, of the local church, It was just so good. So it's like, as much as they make camp awesome, it's like they always help foster those moments of relationship between you and your students. And so anyone, whether you were there this year or have gone in years past, you understand what I'm talking about. They just do a good job of cultivating that time together. And man, the church is something that we're super passionate about because the church is often called the bride of Christ. Have you guys ever gone to a wedding?
Yes.
I think probably, has anyone not gone to a wedding?
Yeah.
Wow, like three people. Stop it, John, you've been married. Anyway. I'm gonna tell Michelle that. Okay, so if you've been to a wedding at all, who is typically like the wedding really about?
Best man.
I think it's about the parents.
It's typically about the bride, right? I mean, yes, it's about the union of the bride and groom, but like when the bride walks down the aisle, where's everybody look? They're like, whoa. Usually the first look is like at her, but then you've got some real sentimental, like, oh my gosh, that are like, groom, like, I'm watching you, boy, you better cry. That's your bride, you know, like, I don't know. Does anyone else do that, or is that just me? I like get a glimpse of the bride, and I'm like, oh, she's pretty, and then I'm like, laser beam, like, you gonna cry? Anyway. Which then poor guys, like my husband being one of them, like is standing up there and he's like, everybody's staring at me, waiting for me to cry. So it's like super uncomfortable for some people. You know, I don't know that I saw like a tear stream, but I could hear like at one point, we're like looking at our pastor who is doing the ceremony, and I heard like, I think he was kind of breathing a little heavy, and I was like, he's choking it back right now. So I've literally only seen the man cry one time in our marriage of like almost 7.5 years. And let's just say it was not anything that I did in a good way. Like, it wasn't because he loved us a lot. It wasn't because, like, I'll spare Wyatt and when he really cried, and I'll let him answer that story some other time. But it was to the point where I literally laughed at him. And then I was like, dang it, like, I've been looking for you to cry at something. And then I laughed the moment he did, and I was like, sorry. Because, you know, every man really wants to be laughed at when they actually show some true raw emotion. Like, my bad, babe. Anyway, so all that to say, at a wedding, you know, the most important person, you say, really the couple, but the person who's highlighted the most at a wedding is usually the bride, and it's focused like all around, you know, like who gives this woman to be married to this man, and dads are like, my wife and I, or her mother and I, you know, and they have this like declaration, it's the passing of hands and like vows and all that. It's really beautiful. But so anyway, using that analogy that the church, the local church, the body of Christ is the bride of Christ. And so if the church is the bride of Christ, and we as Christians are considered little Christs, then our biggest thing should be the church. It should be of number one importance, how to love her, love the church, how to serve the church, how to give of ourselves to the church. And so I say all that to say that, man, it's important that we don't forsake that time, and we don't overlook or don't eliminate ourselves from getting together. And I know sometimes you guys can't help it. Like, so this isn't this like, come to church, but the heart of it is come be in community, because where there's community, there's health and there's healing and there's wholeness. And that's what God wanted us to do, is be a part of the church and be a part of that body. And our speaker at camp also talked about like the difference between church in big group, which would be like this moment or our morning gatherings. And so those big moments where it can only bring so much, but at the same time in a big group, you can disappear and not be seen and not feel heard or not be valued. And so then that's where the importance of a small group comes into play. But there's things that you can't get in a small group, like the worship. I mean, you can have worship, but you know what I'm saying? Like, there's different things that only the big group can give, and there's different things that only the small group can give, and it's important that we have both. And so, so that's why I just want to encourage you guys, when we do events, like pool parties, they may seem silly, but like, man, come be a part of it. And because you're building relationships and you're getting to know people, and sometimes, it may not do anything for you. You might be like, I hate swimming, I don't like people, whatever. But there might be somebody there who needs to have an interaction with you or talk with you or whatever. So just want to encourage you guys that whenever the body, whether in these doors or out of these doors, is gathering, be a part of it and don't miss out on it, because that's where you can grow and come into just that presence of the Lord and build community. So anyway, that was point number 3. So the first one was to come up with a game plan. The second one was to build and cultivate healthy, deep friendships. And the last one was to not miss church. So right now I really quick want to invite a couple people up with me. So as you know, we just had camp. We had some of our students go on a mission trip to Colombia. And we also have somebody from our youth group that's going to be sharing his testimony. So I want you guys to come up, give them a round of applause.